Back now with Sterling Hayden. This article in the Rolling Stone on the funeral of Tito. When is that article going to come out, Sterling? Damn got foggiest, huh?
It should come out. No, if I don't have it done in about 4 days, it won't be done, you know. Like I said, it was a loose thing. It was a loose thing. I mean, I'm not a journalist, and I really went for my heart. And the imprimatur of Rolling Stone, we talked before about going other places and doing things, and it's either going to come out very, very fast. I'm going hard on it right now because it was a very, very heavy. I was talking about the periphery of it, but the actual event itself was I was 11 days there altogether. It's one of the good things. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I don't want to miss a word.
No, I want to hear what you were going to say.
Well, I was going to ask you if people talked over there about the fact that President Carter did not attend that funeral, if you heard something.
Well, the press did, but I don't speak Serbo-Croat, you know, and not many of them speak English. So I think there was, you could feel it in the air, yeah, because remember, I finally got accredited. You know, I didn't really go with any papers, but I got, you know, I kept meeting people. I met one of a guy from NBC. What was his name? I can't think of it, but anyway. So we get out there, and of course I'm in the section with the press, right directly across from us, as you've seen in all the pictures, with all the dignitaries, right? And I looked at Brezhnev and Gromyko. Gromyko's wearing a Homburg, you know, like they used to wear down on Wall Street. Where's Wall Street? I'm mixed up here. Down there, isn't it?
Well, whatever way south.
Whatever way in it. And, but I looked at Brezhnev, and I looked around, and I looked up 7 or 8 rows, and here was Miss Lillian, and Mr. Mondale, and somehow the disparity between the two was rather impressive, because I must say, we all know that Brezhnev is supposed to be not well, but by God, he looked well.
And turned out.
And he was there, and he was standing like this, and he looked, I passed a knight down there somewhere in the lobby. There was a guy in armor, you know. I don't mean a walking knight, I mean, you know, a piece of armor.
Yeah.
He looked like he was armor, you know, and I thought, rather fitting look, is it not, for a man in that position, you know?
Yep.
And, but the thing that really moved me, because as I said, I was in the press section part of the time, and I watched the whole thing. I watched the whole thing build up, and it was a beautiful day. And I looked up through the, you know, newsmen are so damn busy, huh?
All the time.
You know, you've just got to cover. Well, I'm just drifting. I'm always drifting. And I looked up through the birch trees, and I looked, and above all, the thing that moved me most was a phalanx of 27 people, who were the heroes of the original first partisan proletarian brigade. And they were, of course, I'm 64 now, and they were all, you know, in their late 50s, 60s, some 70s. And 27 there were 3 women there. One woman had no arms at all. They'd been torn off by what's called the Ustashi, the Croatian Fascist Party. We're not getting into politics anyway. Another woman that had her hands chopped off, but they had a red ribbon around their neck. And I looked at those faces, and I carried a little Minox camera, and I shot about 15 pictures of it. And they just looked so beautiful, you know. And the body came in a plain oak coffin. And they had a funeral dirge that I'd heard during the war, because during the war, when we buried people, it was always at night, you know, because the damn German planes are overhead during the daytime. At night, if whoever was killed, why, you try to dig a hole in all those rocks, because the coast of Yugoslavia and most of the inland mountains are all rock, see, on the surface, I think. And they had this lovely song. If I could sing, oh my Lord, if I could hum, if I were like Mel Torme, he could play this, oh my God, it's the opposite of what we think of as music, but it's a deep, and I knew they were going to play it. And as the body went by, the old men and these women, and they did a beautiful thing. They were all crying, you know, and I always carry a little pair of binoculars, a little pair of 6x30, you know, just big enough, you know, and I'm looking, because by now my camera's busted. She jammed, okay? So I'm watching these faces, and of course they cried. And they didn't follow the casket, you know, they just looked down like that as the body went by, and they just cried, and then the ceremony went on, and, well, you know, I guess you've all seen the rest. I haven't seen any of it on television, but they tell me that the Yugoslavs had 40 cameras going, and then that night, the feeling in the town, I went out,
Just a minute. When that body went by you, what did you think?
Oh man, you know, what took me there was obviously heavy, because you don't break a contract and throw over 250,000, you know, just by accident, you know. And I just
we're back to the 250,000.
We're back to that, and we're back to the feeling the thing I think that the death must have meant to you and to all of us who are sensitive was that somehow it was one of a kind going out, huh?
And again, also the last
of the giants, and a giant among giants in his way, because a guerrilla leader is not the same as a man 10 Downing Street or in the White House, you know what I mean? I mean, let's face it, he carved his way right out of that thing, And I had very heavy feelings. I had very, very heavy feelings, and it was a magnificent moment. And that night, you could feel it in Belgrade. In Belgrade, as I said, in that town, you could feel it. As I said, I'd never been into the city before, and it's a Dur city. It's Dur, you know. It's Dur. I'm told by correspondents that by comparison with Bulgaria and Albania, it is exactly like San Francisco, you know. And it's beautiful, but didn't feel that way. Of course, there was a lot of rakia going around, you know, which is the Yugoslav vodka. And
did you have a little of that while you were there?
No, I didn't.
No.
I didn't have a drop. No, I didn't have anything because I was on that antabuse thing, and still am, as I said. And
oh no, we forgot that. Now, if you
well, we got away from that.
Yeah, if you drink now with that, then you
well, if you actually are a real boozer, and if you stay on your prescribed regimen of antabuse, and you pull, let's say I put down a bottle and a half of Black Label tonight, you know, and I chased it with a little Cointreau, you know what some of us do.
Yeah, just to kind of level it off, exactly, right.
The chances are that you wouldn't have to worry about tomorrow.
Nor would you care.
Nor would you care. Yeah. They wouldn't give you a funeral like Tito, but anyway, who cares? You'd be gone. But I did. I drank through it in Paris. Some things happened up in Paris, and I got to a point where I thought, well, that's okay. This is okay. Grass is just beautiful for me. It's magnificent. But there come times when you simply need. I thought, all right, you dumb, whatever I called myself, which I will not say.
Okay.
Go ahead. So I had 4 double shots of port wine, which I love. You know, Sandeman's Tawny Porto. Oh. And then a couple of bottles of white wine, and all I got out of it was a headache. A little headache in the morning, but not a hangover really at all. Yeah. So I guess I should triple the dose or something. But that thing down there was a heavy trip. And that night I started to say that night in Yugoslavia after the burial, after all the formality. And of course everybody flies out. You know, I mean all the dignitaries.
Yep. It's over. Home.
I had the chance, and by this time I'd worked my way up into a room on the 16th floor. I always like to be where I can see, you know. I got to be able to see someplace, you know. I have to be able. And I looked down at the town. I looked down where the 2 rivers met, and you could hear some little some laughter, you know, and some drunk, you know.
Yeah, chatter
all
in the
kinds
streets.
of laughter,
Chatter in the streets, right?
And across the Danube River on the far side. I don't think it was part of any scheduled, as the British say, scheduled operation. They had some damn big guns going, you know. And I could see the flash, and then hear those guns booming, you know. And I looked out across that town. Of course, by this time, they did have a lot of flags. All the flags were at half-mast, of course. But normally, Belgrade doesn't fly flags, you know. And you come out of Paris, and, you know, or you come out of San Francisco or Sausalito, where it's full of balloons and kites and everything. And
Disneyland. A lot of flags at Disneyland.
So, yeah.